doing? I hope you're really good and you're having a good day so far. Today I'm back with a new video and it's one of my favourite styles to film some new healthy dessert ideas, all of which are high protein and perfect for like pre or post workout snacks as well as like a dessert. I would love it if you could hit this video with a like, it really helps my channel and everything like that, and we will get straight into it. The first one I'm going to make is a protein peanut butter cup, like similar style to the Reese's ones, which are so tasty, but obviously these are packed with more protein and like a lot less sugar. For this one you're going to need some whey protein. I'm using this vanilla flavour, some milk, just use whatever you have got in or that you use at home. I'm using some 0% fat Greek yogurt and then some peanut butter or any nut butter you have got, a bit of stevia sweetener. Extras is this 1 calorie fry light spray, some salt, which you only need a little bit of, just some actual muffin tins for the cups, and a big chunk of chocolate. I'm just using this Bourneville one. Do just like milk chocolate, whatever you prefer. And then I'm just going to measure out 100 grams of this dark chocolate into a bowl, break it up into small little pieces and microwave that to melt it, or you could use like a pan to melt your chocolate as well. So measuring out 100 grams of chocolate, breaking it up into little chunks and then popping it in the microwave, stirring it around sort of every 30 seconds. So I'm just going to take this tin, even better if you've got an actual muffin tray, and giving them a spray with some fry light. Even better if you've got like an actual muffin tray holder so that they can stay in place a bit easier, and just spray inside these. And that is all really nice and smooth, so I'm just going to pour this into the tray. Just going to weigh out about 50 grams. So you just want to measure out 50 grams like across the 4 cup cases. So I just popped my tray back on the scales, and then you just want to get a little spoon and drag the chocolate up the side so you're creating like a little cup kind of format. I'm just going to pop these in the freezer whilst I make the filling. So for the filling I'm using 30 grams of whey protein in vanilla flavour. You could use whatever flavour you've got at home, a quarter of a teaspoon of sweetener, then quarter of a teaspoon of salt. These really make all the difference, I think. And I'm using 50 grams of Greek yogurt. Then I'm just taking a fork, and you only need a little small bowl for doing this part, and this is just before adding the peanut butter, just so it's a bit easier to mix together. Next up, 60 grams of smooth peanut butter. I think crunchy would work the same as well. Oh, this is so satisfying. Oh my goodness, my mouth is watering watching this back. And then I'm gradually just going to add some milk, but depending on how many you want to make, you could make it like more sort of doughy or less. Just taking the chocolate cups out of the freezer, and then I'm going to pour the peanut butter into the cups and pop them back in the freezer before I melt like the rest of the chocolate again. So I'm just spreading my dough like across each little peanut butter cup here. You could actually make quite a few more of these, but I just prefer like the larger size peanut butter cups for this part. So these are ready to go back in the freezer. So they went in the freezer for about 15 minutes, and in that time I reheated the chocolate, and this part you just want to evenly spread out the chocolate across them all and just drag it around like a cup, and just really make sure you get every little scrap of chocolate out of your container because you'll be surprised. And yeah, you just want to cover up all the little peanut butter parts. This part got so messy as well, like I'm pretty sure I had more chocolate on me than there was in those peanut butter cups. So that last bit is definitely the most faffy because you've really got to make sure you get all the chocolate out of your container, and I'd probably say the smaller the container like that you make your chocolate in, it's probably a lot easier. So they have just gone back in the freezer. I'm going to leave them for about like an hour and 15 before I get them back out, just because I made the filling like in between quite thick, so you really want to make sure that's like completely hardened. And you can leave them in the freezer for a few days as well, like they last quite a while. So I took these out, just make sure that they're completely solid, and you can take them out of the cases. You could also leave them in if you're keeping them in the freezer. So here are the peanut butter cups. Look at those. Yeah, super happy with those, and they're nice and chunky, like they're not small ones. You could also like make them into smaller versions like and have more if you prefer. I can't even explain, these taste absolutely insane. Oh Oh my god, look at those. So yeah, these are the perfect pre or post workout little snack, or like dipped in a cup of tea. The next recipe we're moving on to is a protein blueberry muffin. These are one of my favourite things. I absolutely love blueberry muffins, and especially with added protein. So I'm just going to show you what you need for this. First things first, preheat your oven to 190 degrees. So for this you're going to need some oat flour. I always just like to take my oats and then blend them up to make the flour. You're also going to need some protein. You could just use whatever flavour you've got in, but I would say something like a vanilla or the cookies and creams. And you're also going to need some fat-free Greek yogurt, as well as some blueberries. Fresh ones would be best, but I'm just using frozen. And then just a little bit of milk that you have in. I'm using the almond one, vanilla extract. I'm using these vanilla flavour drops. I'll leave them linked below. These are 0 cal, 0 sugar, as well as some baking powder. And lastly, just a single egg. Also some muffin cases. I've just weighed out 100 grams of oats, and then I'm going to blend them up now. It only takes a few seconds. Like, oats are so versatile. So we're making our oat flour now and just blending these. It takes a few minutes. You could also use a food processor. The oats are all blended, and I'm just going to put this into a large mixing bowl. And I'm just going to add my whey protein. I'm using 50 grams of vanilla whey protein and using a sieve as well. And a teaspoon of baking powder. In a separate bowl, I'm just going to whisk like all the wet ingredients now. So I'm getting my Greek yogurt. I absolutely love baking with this. I'm using 100 grams of this stuff, and then 1 whole egg, and quite a lot of these vanilla flavour drops. If you've seen a few of my other videos, I adore these things. They make such a difference, and the 0 cal. Then 50 grams of milk. You could use any milk that you've got at home. This is my new whisk, by the way. If you've seen for ages, I've been using literally a fork. So I'm whisking all the wet ingredients first, and then adding the wet to my dry and whisking that. Do this before you add any blueberries as well. And I'm just changing to a spoon so I can fold in 100 grams of blueberries. Be really careful of these, because you want them to really careful with intact. Then I'm getting my muffin cases, and I'm going to make 6 muffins today. You could make more or less, just like depending on what size that you want them. I like mine quite big. Oh god, I'm spraying that absolutely everywhere. Love that from me. So yeah, just spreading that across each of them. These are ready to go on in the oven. They've gone in for 14 minutes in the oven. I'm going to check them a little bit early just to make sure they're doing alright. Not the best part. Like, I remember when I was younger, actually, whenever I'd go like over to my friends' houses and bake with them, the amount of times I'd eat too much of the mixture and then would always be short. And to be honest, things haven't changed since then. They're after 14 minutes. So I just put them on a cooling tray. This is the hardest part. I always want to start eating them when they've not cooled down. Dun, dun, dun. So everything is pretty much finished now, so I'm just going to show you. Muffins are finished. I left them to cool. I hate that wait, like waiting for them to cool down. I just want to dive straight in, and I'll make sure I put the macros on the screen and everything, but I'm really happy with these cute little recipes. And then here are the muffins. These are, oh, I'm so happy with how these turned out. I absolutely love a blueberry muffin. And you could also add some chocolate toppings or any more fruit and stuff. These would be quite a nice like breakfast muffin, I think, as well. I just tried this one and it is so good. Like, these are delicious and so low calorie for like the volume that you get. So yeah, 116 calories per muffin, which is amazing. They're absolutely massive as well. That brings us to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed this one, and do let me know over on my Instagram if you try any of these recipes. I'm also going to leave my cookbook ebook linked in the description down below so you can check that out. And yeah, let me know what other videos you'd like to see as well. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.